Good morning, and I want to start out by apologizing for having not forgotten, but not been able to post videos uh, on YouTube Sunday and Monday. Uh, Sunday I was unable to because of how Sunday is a little bit more busy for us, and anyone who is part of a pastor's family or missionary family knows that for a lot of missionary and pastors' families, Sunday is usually the busiest day of the week, uh, because whereas other people are taking the day off from work and stuff like that, the pastor actually has to prepare the sermons and things like that, and more often than not, the pastor's family is involved with most of the things that the church does, therefore making Sunday a busier day. Uh, that's our case. Sunday was a busier day, and I wasn't able to record any videos. Uh, but Monday also, I was at work and didn't have time after class to record anything. So we're back at it today. Um, in Numbers chapter 27. Numbers chapter 27. The verse that stood out to me is a really short verse, but with an idea that I think is very applicable and is very interesting to read this verse and realize what it's talking about. Numbers chapter 27, verse 5 says, "And Moses brought their cause before the Lord." Whose cause? Whose cause are we talking about here? We are talking about the daughters of Zelophehad, one of the Gileadites. One of the, it was from the family of, let me see. He's from the family of Manasseh. Yeah, he was from the tribe of Manasseh. And this Zelophehad had two had five daughters actually. Mala, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah. And these five daughters were his only children. He had no sons. And so when he died, there was no son to receive the land that he was supposed to, the inheritance among the children of Israel. So the daughters came before Moses and brought this problem to him because, well, he was their leader and they needed to know what to do here because there was no son to inherit the family's inheritance, the father's inheritance, and to have the kinsman redeemer redeem it would have been too difficult in this case. So the five daughters ask Moses what to do in this situation. Moses, being presented with this new situation, he most likely ran through in his mind all of the laws God had given them up until that point, and tried to think which of the laws would be applicable in that situation. Well, because we know we need to rule our lives by principles, and God's word is the principle by which we should dictate our lives. And so Moses, when he realized that there was no law that God had given them yet that specifically applied to this new situation, in verse 5 it says that he brought their cause before the Lord. It's a very simple thing that Moses did. Something that Moses did a lot of. He went before the Lord a lot. But what struck me about this verse is the fact that it is so applicable to our lives nowadays. We know we should live our lives by the principles of God's word. That's why God's word is given to us, so we can live by it. And God's word applies to every situation we come across. We can apply God's word to anything we come across, no matter what the situation is. No matter if we've been through the situation before, no matter if we've never been with the situation before, we can always go back to God's word. However, even going back to God's word, Moses had trouble finding a solution to the problem. And sometimes that's the same thing we come across. Sometimes new situations appear in our lives that even looking at God's word, it's hard for us to figure out what the right solution is. Because God does not God does not have in the Bible saying, in thus and such specific situation you should do this specific thing. Well, many times he does have that in the Bible, but sometimes there are situations that pop up that don't have that specific solution written in a verse or something like that, which is why our walk with God is so important. If we're not walking with God and we're not talking and spending time with God, and when we need a solution that is not so clear to us, we need to go to God. And if we're not walking with God, that's going to be very hard to do. Moses brought their cause before the Lord. It's the same thing that we can do nowadays. It reminds me a lot of what I do at work. At work, I have certain procedures that I have to do. And when certain things happen, I'm supposed to follow these specific procedures because that's the way it's done. And sometimes those procedures are a bit more general and I can apply them to other situations, new situations that I come across. However, sometimes new situations pop up that have no procedure that I know of, and I need to talk to my leader to find out what I'm supposed to do in that case. And sometimes he doesn't even know. Sometimes he passes it on to his leader, and it keeps passing like that until finally we get to one of the higher ups who knows what we're supposed to do or can tell us, hey, in this situation, do thus and such, and basically create a new procedure. God, in this case, is our leader. No matter what situation we come across, if falling back on the principles of God's word does not reveal the clear solution, we can go directly to God and pray to him, asking him for the solution and how we should deal with that certain situation. And because God's word is already given to us complete, obviously he will show us in his word where we can find the solution that we cannot so clearly find on our own. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation that is hard for you to figure out what the solution is, if you ever find yourself facing a circumstance that you don't know what to do, ask God to show you what to do. And he will most certainly do it if you're walking with him and you're living with him like Moses did. God resolved Moses' problem here in Numbers, and he can resolve any problem we come across, because certainly for God there is nothing new. Even though it may be new to us, God knows exactly what it is and exactly what the solution is, and he will help us if we simply ask him.